I'm Mark Matsumoto, and today I want to show you how to make a crunchy tempura shrimp sushi roll, so stick around. While most sushi rolls found outside of Japan aren't very traditional, Ebiten Maki Sushi or shrimp tempura rolls are a thing here, and they fall into the category of futomaki or thick rolls, which are often made at home. Outside of Japan, the tempura roll has become a springboard for modern sushi like the dragon roll and the Boston roll, so it's a type of sushi that's enjoyed around the world. My tempura shrimp roll is inspired by one my mom used to make when I was growing up, and it included a crisp leaf of lettuce and some mayo spiked with spicy Japanese mustard. In my version, I've also added some creamy avocado and a layer of briny tobiko on the outside to make it just a little extra. I've also got some tricks to ensure your tempura shrimp stays nice and crispy in the roll. So let's start with a look at our ingredients. For the shrimp tempura, I've got 10 13-15 count shrimp, 45 grams of cake flour for dusting, another 100 grams of cake flour for the batter, and 2/3 of a cup of very cold water. To make the roll, I've got a batch of my sushi rice, which I'll include a link for in the description down below. I've also got 5 full sheets of nori. The other ingredients for the roll are 5 lettuce leaves, 1 ripe avocado, a 1/4 cup of Japanese mayonnaise, 2 teaspoons of Japanese hot mustard, and 75 grams of tobiko. The first thing I'm going to do is make our mustard mayo by mixing the karashi or Japanese spicy mustard into the mayonnaise. Karashimayo is a spicy condiment that can be spread on sandwiches, served on okonomiyaki, or used as a seasoning for vegetables, but it's also delicious in sushi rolls. Next, let's prepare the avocado. I'm gonna split it in half by cutting around the pit. Then I'm gonna twist the 2 halves to free one side from the pit. Tap the pit with the knife to embed the blade and give it a twist to pop it out. Now I'm gonna peel both halves. Finally, I'm gonna slice each half into 7 or 8 wedges like this. The wedges are easier to stuff into rolls than vertical slices because they can be staggered and aren't quite as wide. I also recommend squeezing a bit of lemon juice on these to keep them from browning. For the lettuce, you want to slice them in half and remove the stems. This makes them roll more evenly. To prepare the shrimp, I'm going to start by peeling them. Just grab the legs and peel the shell around the shrimp like this. Then just repeat this a little further up the shrimp to get the rest of the shell. I recommend leaving the last segment of shell intact so the tail stays attached. Then I'm gonna pull off the telson, which is a sharp spike in the center of the tail. This tends to pop when you fry it, which is why I remove it. Now I'm gonna wash the shrimp in cold water to remove any gunk from the surface of the shrimp and minimize any unwanted smells. Then you want to do a good job drying the shrimp with paper towels. Wet shrimp leads to lots of spattering when we fry it, so take your time here to get each shrimp nice and dry. The next thing you want to do is devein the shrimp. Just insert the tip into the back of the shrimp just to the right of center and then use a scooping motion towards the left to hook the vein onto the tip of the toothpick. If the vein tears, just try it again in a different spot. It does take some practice, but once you've got this down, it's way faster than butterflying and it helps the shrimp hold a better shape. The next thing I'm going to do is cut some slits up the belly side of the shrimp about 1/3 of the way through. Then I'm going to flip it over and press my way up the shrimp with my thumbs. This step straightens out the shrimp so it won't curl, and it's essential when you're making tempura shrimp for sushi. The final step I'm going to take is to squeegee the excess liquid out of the tail using a knife like this. This helps keep them from exploding in the hot oil. Once your shrimp are prepped, line them up in a tray and dust them with a generous coating of flour. Normally for tempura, I'd go with a light dusting here, but since we're rolling these into sushi, I want an extra thick coating of batter. Next, I'm going to make the batter by pouring ice cold water into the larger portion of cake flour and using a whisk to quickly mix them together. I make this batter a little thicker than my regular tempura batter because I want to give the shrimp a nice thick coating. The same rules still apply though, and you want to mix it as little as possible so it doesn't get tough and dense. The batter should end up looking something like this. The last thing we need to do is prep a wire rack lined with a few sheets of paper towels. To fry the shrimp, I have a pot of vegetable oil preheated to 360 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius, and I'm gonna pick the shrimp up by its tail and coat the rest of it with batter. Then I'm gonna lower it into the oil while shaking and stretching it. Be sure the shrimp aren't sticking together. These are only gonna take about 2 minutes to fry, so turn them over a few times to make sure they cook through evenly. The shrimp will end up plump and juicy on the inside and crisp on the outside after this first fry, but the crisp coating won't last very long, so if having some crunch in your roll is important to you, you'll want to double fry the shrimp. When the shrimp are nice and crisp, transfer them to a paper towel lined rack. Now you have a decision to make. If you want plump and juicy shrimp, you'll want to roll these as is. But if you want the shrimp to stay crispy, go ahead and fry them again. This gives you a lasting crunch, but it'll come at the cost of making your shrimp a little more dry and chewy. Once the batter starts to brown, transfer them to your paper towel lined rack to drain. Before I show you how to roll these up, I want to take a moment to thank all of my supporters. Whether you're pitching in via Patreon, sharing my videos with friends, or just dropping positive vibes in the comments, every bit of support helps, and I want you to know that I'm super grateful for you. If you're new here and want to help out, hit the link in the description down below to see what you can do. Before we make our rolls, I'm gonna prep a bowl of water with some rice vinegar mixed in. This Tezu will keep the rice from sticking to our hands. I've got a makisu here that I've covered with plastic wrap, and I'm gonna start with a sheet of nori on it. Then I'm gonna wet my fingers with the Tezu and grab a handful of sushi rice. Be sure to keep the rice covered with a damp towel to keep it from drying out. Work the sushi rice from one side to the other, depositing an even strip of rice along the way. Then you want to use your fingertips to pick and place the rice and spread it over the nori. Once you have a thin, even layer, you can grab another handful of sushi rice and repeat the process until the rice reaches the bottom and side edges of the nori. Now we're going to spread a thin, even layer of tobiko across the bottom half of the rice. Flip the nori over from bottom to top. And then I'm gonna line up 2 halves of lettuce just below the center of the nori. Be sure to let some of the leaves spill out from both sides. Okay, let's stagger some avocado wedges on top of the lettuce. And then I'm gonna place 2 shrimp tempura with the tails facing outwards. To finish the fillings off, I'm gonna spread some of our spicy mayo on top of the tempura. Now I'm gonna grab the makisu and roll the bottom edge up and over the filling until the rice makes contact with the nori on the other side. And then you wanna roll the whole thing to the other end of the mat. Wrap the whole thing up in the makisu with the seam at the bottom, and then apply even pressure across the entire surface of the mat to finalize the shape of your roll. Then you want to unwrap the roll and remove the makisu. To slice the roll, wet a long, sharp knife, and we're going to cut the ends off the roll first. I usually cut these a little thicker than the center so we can stand them up. Be sure to keep the knife clean and wet between cuts. Now I'm gonna slice the remaining part of the roll in half. Line the two halves up and slice these into thirds. Next, you want to slightly stagger the two rows of sushi, and then I'm gonna use a broad spatula to scoop these up and plate them. Finally, I'm gonna arrange the two side pieces behind the rest of the roll, and our tempura shrimp sushi is done.
All right, let's try one of these out. Itadakimasu. Oh, look at that. You got that juicy shrimp on the inside. I'm gonna give it a little soy sauce, and it's pretty big, but I'm gonna go in one bite. That's a mouthful for sure. The first couple bites are like this deluge of different textures. You've got that poppy tobiko on the outside, the crispy lettuce, and that crunchy tempura. And then you get this rich flood of creaminess from the avocado and the mayonnaise. But that's contrasted by that spicy Japanese mayo, which keeps it from getting cloying. It's such a delicious combination of textures and flavors and tastes. If you've learned something new from this video, help me out by giving this a big thumbs up and by sharing this with all your friends that are into sushi. Well, I'm gonna go roll the rest of these up, but check out this playlist for more sushi recipes. And I'll catch you in the next one.